So where are all the tornadoes? What is this? What are we watching? Yeah, I'm sorry guys, this is complete clickbait. I don't make these videos for subs or likes or views. I thought I would instead just kind of share with you what storm chasing is actually like and put you in my head for a little bit. And so if you don't like that, then go ahead and click off of here. I don't care. I only do YouTube because I just like to share what it is I see when I'm storm chasing. Today is April 27th, 2024. We're chasing a moderate risk setup in Oklahoma today. There's a 15% chance of tornadoes within 20 miles of a point in Oklahoma. The forecast says that there's the possibility of strong to violent tornadoes today as well. Yesterday, April 26th, there were a series of very large and destructive tornadoes near Omaha, and we weren't on that storm. We were on a different storm. And I got just a very brief look at a distant tornado, and that was about it. And now I have to do hours and hours of driving, just kind of sitting and reflecting on that. What it means to miss what is almost surely going to be the event of the year. And early in the season too, it's still April. So we have 3 more months of primetime storm chasing, and we hope for a few good days. But now, you know, it just being April, now we have to do the rest of the season knowing that we've basically missed the event of the year. And that's tough to deal with. The same thing happened last year. On March 31st, in my opinion, was the chase of the year. There was a very large, violent tornado in eastern Iowa. There was even a secondary tornado that was concurrent at the same time. High contrast, big brown dust plumes, amazing structure. Yeah, to me that was the shot, and that was affirmed by Tanner Charles's video winning, you know, video of the year for 2023. And that's tough because we weren't on that storm. We were on the Peoria storm, which just didn't do it at all. And then you see that shot and you know that was it. It's game over. And to have that happen in March too, where you know now the rest of the season, it's all downhill. And then just to add insult to injury, you get a day like April 4th last year where you're on the storm but you just can't get into position, and you miss the tornadoes anyways. And that's the day that everybody got hit and run over. And so it really drives it home. Those are the days where you're driving around thinking, why am I out here? What is the point of this? This is a dumb hobby. We're gonna drive around for hours and hours and hours out in the middle of nowhere, hoping to see a cloud that does what we want it to do, right? Like, we've got a lot of clouds here, but we want a specific type of pointy cloud that is spinning really fast. And it makes you think, man, this is kind of arbitrary in the grand scheme of things. What is the point of this? So yeah, these are the kind of things I think about on a long drive. We got 5 hours to Oklahoma today. I have only me and my thoughts to dwell on here. I've been chasing for 20 years now. It has been 10 years since I've seen a violent tornado. which is kind of amazing to me. It's been 5 years since I've seen a really good, what I would consider a great chase, you know, where you've got maybe a significant tornado and a string of other photogenic tornadoes, and something that you can point to and say, wow, that was a really cool landmark event. I think the last time that happened to us was 2019 in Tipton, Kansas. And then everything since then has been pretty much just a blur of mush. Saw a few tornadoes. Some of them were pretty good. Last year we got pretty little ropes in January, and just the fact that they were in January made them special. And then the last chase in August, we had a kind of a big tornado under a cool structured storm, but you know, it was rainy and we weren't that close. And that was a good chase, but it's not something that I'm going to be talking about for years to come. So yeah, it's been years. I feel like I've seen a lot of big tornadoes. I've seen a lot of cool events. Obviously there's more stuff to see. There'll always be something new and exciting out there. But I kind of wonder, you know, I've kind of done it. I've kind of seen it. This is starting to turn into a bit of a slog for me, doing these drives. I used to just enjoy driving out here and camping in the van. And now it's becoming about as exciting as you would think driving down I-80 in the middle of nowhere and then sleeping in your car would be, right? It doesn't sound great, but it was fun for me. It was a fun adventure. And now it's becoming a bit of a slog. And when you have a day like yesterday where you leave the night before, you drive, you camp in your car, you make your forecast. I'm looking for photogenic tornadoes. So I was pretty excited for the cold core type play. The cold core, by the way, was a pattern that John Davies really brought to prominence in the forecasting, meteorology, and storm chasing worlds. As a couple of papers that he wrote really highlighted these as prolific tornado producing events. And they can be very photogenic, and they're often under forecast because the ingredients tend to be relatively marginal when you compare them to other high-end tornado events. Usually lower dew points, cooler temperatures, and yeah, maybe not even super strong directional wind shear. But what happens is you get these cut-off lows with pools of cold air aloft. And that cold air aloft creates these very steep mid-level lapse rates, and you get that under just enough moisture at the surface that you get really, really buoyant low-level instability. You get a lot of stretching in the low levels of the atmosphere, and you can get these really dramatic, photogenic tornadoes out of these events, usually low-top storms, because there's not as much cape. But because of that, you know, they're often not as rain wrapped. And they're smaller storms, but they're very cyclical. They tend to be photogenic. And so yeah, I was more interested in kind of the cold core end of yesterday's event than the more conventional warm sector play down the dry line. Because I could see this big, deep, low kind of sitting there, kind of spiraling away, deepening, lots of cold air aloft, and the 0 to 3 kilometer cape, very, very high, lots of vorticity right on that surface low. To me it said tornadoes, and I've been having issues with storm mode in the warm sector play. Stuff goes HP pretty quick. You have lots of cells that are interfering with each other. And yeah, so I was really hemming and hawing up in Norfolk yesterday. a cell went further west than I wanted it to go. It was basically tracking up the backside of the low, and I was worried that it was going to be just sucking cold air, cold northerlies. There was a lot of cloud cover and cool air to the north. And then it looked like the dry line was going to go, and so I saw it starting to pop. But then I saw a surface station reporting a southeasterly that was 72 over 65 with sunny skies, just southeast of this cell to the west. And I said, okay, really, that's got to be our storm. That looks great. The problem is I was still more than an hour away from that storm. So, I mean, that was the time to be on it. When you see that, you basically got to be on it, because there was so much other cloud cover and cooler temps to the north that the window of opportunity here wasn't that big. And as I'm heading down there, the dry line started to erupt, and very quickly it filled in. Looked like a line. And I'm like, okay, I'm definitely making the right decision here. I want to be on this discrete, now confirmed tornado producer. Okay, so it's spinning up tornadoes. I'm missing those tornadoes because I'm still 50 miles away. But it could keep going. You know, these isolated cells that are in a good environment, they can just keep going. You miss a few tornadoes right off the bat, but then it starts putting down bigger tornadoes, and that's really when you want to be on it. So that's fine. And then the dry line's lining out. Okay, I don't want to deal with that. I don't have much good luck in southeast Nebraska. I've chased there a lot. I don't have many tornadoes at all that I can point to from that area. It's just not one of my better chase areas, so wasn't too keen on that either. But anyway, I'm almost to this storm, and it's becoming apparent that it's starting to run into the cold air. Okay, it is like 60 degrees and lots of low clouds streaming in over the fields. I can't really see the storm. Everything's really low visibility. It's foggy, but sometimes it's not a problem. Sometimes you pop out of the fog and the storm's right there, right in that little notch of clear air just south of the fog, and it's sucking on that nice clear air where the temps are warm. But I'm getting close to the storm now, and I'm worried that it's stuck in this fog. And you don't want your storm to be in, 60 degree, 57 degree fog. It's going to be elevated. It's not going to be structured. It's going to be difficult to see. It's just going to have this fuzzy black base, and that's going to be it. And so, and it doesn't look good on the radar now. It's starting to look pretty HP and globular in shape. And meanwhile, the dry line storms way to the southeast, they're starting to go tornado warned. They're not completely discreet though. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine, whatever. Now I'm at the point where I'm close enough that I need to just get on this storm, right? I'm not going to drive an hour out of my way, abandon it without intercepting, and then go after something completely else. I could just drive in circles all day and never get on a storm doing something like that. So I commit to the intercept. I had to detour a little bit because the storm was already crossing my west option to get on it. So I had to backtrack and go north and then northwest. And as I'm approaching this storm, I'm not breaking out of the fog. It is barely 60 degrees, and this is not looking good. And now I'm just a couple miles from the couplet. This thing is probably still making a tornado, but according to the radar, it's rain wrapped. So I'm probably not going to see it, but I at least want to try to get on this storm. And I'm within 2 miles, and I only have gray, streaming clouds and fog. And I sat there for a minute or two, thinking I can move in closer until I hit the precipitation core. But then I thought, man, this is really, really dumb. Because it could just come out of the southwest sky pretty quickly. it could be less than a mile from me, and I would just see kind of rolling black fog, and I could get into trouble. So I actually then drove away from the storm, and once my radar updated, I could still see it was still 2 to 3 miles to my west. It was getting close to the road. I could try to approach it again, and it would have definitely crossed the road by the time I would get up there. So I went back and I tried it again. This time I did see the precipitation core, big gnarly green rear flank, and that was it. I mean, if there was a tornado, it was in there and I wouldn't be able to see it. Had I pushed in earlier, I might have had a better view looking down the notch. But, you know, it was a chance I wasn't willing to take, and it cost me any sort of view I probably had on that circulation. Another circulation was spinning up on the southern flank of the cell to the south, and I thought, okay, great, maybe that's going to be the new tail on Charlie, and this thing's in play after all. It might just be building, kind of back building southward, feeding off the clear air down there. And I'm still in the game, I'm still in business. But as I saw the cell approach, it was just big, gnarly whale's mouth structure. So it had kind of gusted out. There was no nice updraft base anymore. That was it. I think that cell was pretty much done at about that point. And at about that point, I decided I need to abandon this storm. If I want a tornado, we got to go after something to the east. And so I targeted the northernmost cell in the initial dry line band. And now we had 2 prominent tornado warning cells coming up to I-80. I was going to get the northern one just because it would be easier for me to intercept. It was most direct. But as I started working my way over there, another band of cells was lifting up from the south, and this was kind of my initial target. This east to west cluster of cells that would be approaching Norfolk in about the 2 to 3 p.m. time period. To me, the cold core environment was primed at about that time. But they just looked like showery clusters, and we have this very discrete tornado-warned supercell to our east, so I'm going to just continue after that. The sirens all started going off in the little towns I was driving through, even though the storms were not tornado-warned. And what happened was these little clusters started to spin up tornadoes, which the local spotters were spotting. And, you know, me driving and in the towns, I couldn't really see them. But I started to see the reports, so I turned around and I wound up chasing these little showery clusters. And for a while, I wasn't seeing anything, but I made it almost back to where I had started. And there in the distance, coming over a hill, I could see a cone. Cone tornado, miles to my west. Got a quick shot of it on the camcorder. I'm gonna try to get closer. And I'm in the hills, and I'm in the little buildings and trees, and by the time I have another big hill, it's gone. And that's it. That's all the tornado you get to see. Okay? And so I go in for the intercept anyways, and it still has great structure. I mean, you could tell it really did it. This huge horseshoe, big fatty inflow band, and the occluded updraft is still spinning away like a top in there. But I mean, it's in cold air, and it looks like it's winding down and it's done. These storms are probably what we call one and done warm front storms. They spin up right on the warm front, and then that's it. They're kind of done. They go elevated after that. So yeah, I watched this tornado cyclone for pretty close range, just kind of spin down. And then yeah, that was the end of that. So I decided to go east again, and now the easternmost cell in this line is going to do the same thing. It's going to come up from the south, and it might tornado for us. Real pretty storm now. The lighting is getting great, and big white backside of the storm, blue bases. It's gorgeous. And I get on it, and there's a little bowl hanging underneath, and it could be tornadic. It's difficult for me to tell. I'm going to get it as it crosses the road. It gets real low, looks great. crosses and never fully condenses, and even looked like it had a rear inflow jet feeding right into it. And then it got totally rain wrapped, and that was kind of it. And I'm looking at the radar, and that northernmost cell kind of shriveled up and died in the original kind of dry line cells, and the other dominant tornado warned cell has now gone on to be the storm of the day. And you can tell, of course, it's a giant supercell. It has a very nice hook. It's slender and skinny, not a lot of rain in there, so you can tell it's a classic. This is not HP. Has a gorgeous velocity couplet, so you know there's a tornado on it. And now it's tracking over Omaha, which is a worst case scenario. You never want to see that. And the other thing you never want to see is that big black line at the top of your tornado warning list. Because on my software, when the warning is black, it means it's a tornado emergency. A tornado emergency is a tornado that is confirmed, it is violent, and it is tracking over a populated area. So the first time that language was used was for the Greensburg disaster. So whenever you see the tornado emergency, almost certainly there's going to be fatalities. There have been notable events where there weren't any. Taylorville, EF3 back in 2018, tornado emergency, and a strong tornado, a wedge, went right over town, and luckily no fatalities. So, but whenever you see that, people are probably going to die, and so you never want to see that. So your heart kind of sinks, and at the same time, you're sad you're not there. So it is. You have mixed emotions about this. I don't want to see a violent tornado that's going to kill people, but I also know that this is a historic event, and that this is the tornado event. So if you wanted to see the biggest, most well-defined, dramatic tornadoes, which I do, then this is it. That's where you need to be a part of a historic event as well. You know, I was there, I saw it, we lived through it, we dealt with it. It's tough to miss it, even if it's a tragedy. So you have these mixed emotions, but you still want to be there to document it, even if you're not celebrating in glee at the same time. So I can see on my map just this unbroken line of tornado reports from near Lincoln to, southeast of Blair into Iowa. I mean, it's just nonstop tornado. So you know that was the storm, you know that was the thing, and you missed it. And you got one crappy view of a very distant tornado. Now, and I didn't even really look. I still haven't seen it. I won't look, because the second I look at all those tornado photos and videos, I'm just gonna go straight down to the bottom. That's gonna really drive it home for me to see what I missed. And so I don't look. And so I can just look at the map and the radar and the reports and know that I missed everything. So yeah, that's tough to deal with. We're gonna try to see a big tornado today, and if we do, yeah, I'll feel better, probably. It's still gonna sting that I missed yesterday. But I know deep down that we're not going to get anything that is gonna compare with yesterday. I just know that. The tornado probabilities are higher today. They're 15. Yesterday was 10. SBC has been having a real rough year. Lots of 10s, lots of 15s this year have almost entirely busted. So yeah, and Oklahoma, it's going to be lots of people. Storms will not be as photogenic as they were yesterday. We're not going to have the cold air aloft, making for those real pretty storms. Yeah, they might be a little quicker moving. There's more speed shear. So yeah, I am not expecting as good of a chase. We're going to go down there and we're going to try again. And it might be completely frustrating again. I could be near tornadoes and not see them. I could again pick the wrong target and miss a very dramatic, violent tornado. And just be yeah, I could miss again the tornado of the day and just be dealing with crap. You know, I could be close and never see it, pick the wrong storm, and I will again be day 2 of extreme frustration. I mean, this is exquisite frustration that we're talking about here. Like the kind of days and events where you can feel it, where you feel it in your teeth. Like when I exhale, I am breathing out just pure, palpable frustration. And to me, that's all chasing has become in the past several years. You get a decent day here and there with a pretty tornado for a few moments, and then the rest of it is this grind. It is this slog. It is an exercise in futility, just going out there and busting again and again and again. And I know I'm partly or mostly to blame with it. A lot of storm chasing is luck, but there is a large skill factor as well. To me, the analogy is surfing. It's almost like sports, where you can try to know when the weather is good for the best surfing, but at the end of the day, you got to know when the best wave is, and then you got to know how to get on the board and ride it. And I've never surfed, but to me, that's the analogy. And I was never that good about getting on the board, and I was never very good about using my intuition to really play the event as it's going down. So I consider myself a pretty mediocre storm chaser. My batting average is pretty low. I miss a lot of tornadoes. I miss a lot of the best events. And in the past 20 years, I've had several really great chases, and a whole lot of misses in between. And it's getting to the point now where, okay, you are pretty mediocre and you've already seen some great events. So how much longer do you want to keep doing this? Is this your lifelong passion where you're never going to stop chasing, never give up, or do you want to keep driving out here and getting beat up over and over and over again? Okay, you're going to start getting into car wrecks, you're going to slide off the road, you're going to have breakdowns, you're going to get into dangerous traffic jams and flooding and near misses, all in the service of seeing these gray on gray funnel clouds. Is that something you really want to keep doing? And so on these long drives, that's what I have to think about. Do I want to keep doing this? And after days like yesterday, and last year after March 31st and April 4th, I've seriously thought about, hey, maybe it's time to hang it up. Maybe it's time to put this thing back in the shed, call it quits, man. You've seen tornadoes. You've seen some great tornadoes. Maybe it's time to move on and do something else. And today might just further drive that home. Another extremely frustrating chase. And then you go home and now you have to think about it at home. Okay, how long before I even feel ready to go out there again? You know, and it didn't take long after the last bust. That's also what was really frustrating about yesterday was that target selection. You know, because on the last big April, Iowa day, I played the warm sector looking for the big tornado. And part of it was because we were coming from way southwest, so we weren't in position for the early cold core play. But we really could have made it if we wanted to. And now, and that was crap. Those warm sector storms were pretty rain wrapped. They had tornadoes, and even more frustratingly is we missed the tornadoes. We were out of position. We got on the storm too early. We weren't willing to core punch it for safety reasons, which I totally agree with, but we jumped the gun. All of our friends stayed up north and waited for the storm to get it done, and they had views of the tornadoes. We jumped the gun and got on it too soon, got rain wrapped. That was it. It was game over. And yeah, but it was the cold core that did it that day. I mean, a couple chasers might have had a career shot that day on the cold core. And so the next event, I was pretty geeked about playing the cold core. Like, yeah, of course, that's where the photogenic stuff is. But it did the complete flip-flop here, where now the warm sector is going to make the violent storm. And the violent tornado that's very discreet. And so if you can consistently pick the wrong target again and again and again, I mean, such that it's no longer a thing of chance, where basically you have now become the proverbial broken clock, and you see good tornadoes and photogenic stuff, you know, twice a day, just because you are the broken clock. And that, to me, that's where we're at now. It's like, do I want to endure 10 busts on that clock to get 10 good days out of just dumb luck? I might be kind of done with that, and I'm really thinking about wrapping it up here. I don't know what else I'm gonna do. I'll probably go back to school. I'll probably get into flying. I don't know. I'm gonna do something else. Yeah, I'm really thinking about giving it up, man. And there's a lot of reasons. I don't like what chasing is turning into. I don't like that it's a rat race. I don't like that the most dangerous chasing is the most rewarded chasing. That doesn't have to affect my own chasing at all. I can totally just get out here and do my own thing, and go home and whatever. But I mean, that's what I did yesterday. I wasn't on social media at all. I did my own chase. I didn't look at anything else, but I could just tell, looking at the radar, looking at the reports, that yeah, I missed the storm of the year, and that stings. And now I'm going to have to deal with that for the rest of the year too, because whenever I have any sort of storm chaser interaction, it's going to be, were you on Omaha, were you there, what did you do the Omaha day, and I'll just have to shrug and say I screwed it up. And so yeah, just be another one of those. It makes me not want to go to any sort of chaser event. Like I'm now dreading the summit, you know, because everybody's gonna be talking about that day, and there's gonna be photos and videos of it. I'll just have to be sitting there kind of, you know, well, you know, I didn't see that, but I got these other good days, right? Except I didn't. So I'll be going to this event where everybody's kind of celebrating their photos and videos. And again, I won't have anything to really show for it, like I haven't for the past 5 years. Yeah. And so yeah, when I was first starting chasing, I felt like that was okay because, you know, you're kind of up and coming. You just want to see it, and then you see it, and it's awesome. It's amazing. It's a moment of your life. It's pivotal. And you see it a few more times, and now, you know, now you got to the point where that rare, extraordinary event, you know, topping Pilger, you know, topping Conger and Bowdle. To top those events will take some sort of rare, extraordinary thing that might never happen. And that makes me think you've seen it, you've done it. And now all you're doing is getting frustrated when you go out there. So why do you keep doing it? And so yeah, that's what I have to think about. Maybe today we'll see a tornado, and it will remind me why I chase, why I go out here. I think there's much more likely chance that we're going to drive around on some HB storms or fast-moving classics, and we're not going to have a great view, and it's going to suck, and there's going to be tornadoes we didn't see. And then tomorrow, my plan was to chase it home, which looks like a pretty mediocre, junky setup, but it's on the way home, so why not? And the whole day I'm going to be thinking, this is crap, why am I here, why am I doing this? And I should just drive home. And before I started this video, I was crossing the Highway 36, Highway 81 intersection and thinking that to myself. Highway 36 goes straight home, directly to my house. And how warm and cuddly that made me feel looking at that roadside. And the other option, Highway 81 South, the same highway that Brindley and I had our near-death experience on El Reno, kind of the pivotal moment in storm chasing history, that Highway 81 intersection. The intersection where storm chasers made the decisions that would save or cost them their lives. And that's where I'm going. I'm on Highway 81 South towards El Reno. And so that's what's in my head now, is I'm taking the Black Highway south to the unholy land of Oklahoma, which I despise, by the way. I think it's the armpit of America. I've never had a great chase there. The tornadoes are always grungy and hazy. And so when I pass that intersection, I'm thinking, why am I going this way? Why am I doing this? I don't have to. And if I really felt like I didn't want to do this, I would drive home. But I do still deep down have that glimmer of hope that we're going to see something cool, spectacular today. Maybe amazing. It might just be a nice chase with a pretty wall cloud and a little funnel, and that'll be nice. It'll be a par for the course chase for me, where a little consolation prize for completely screwing up yesterday. And then we'll go home, and then we'll just play the rest of the season like we always do, a few hits and misses, and that'll be it. And then I again will have another heartbreak, and I'll be wondering why it is I do this. So, but here we are, guys. I just wanted to put you into my head, because this is what I have to do now for the next few hours. And I once the storms start to go, I have to really get in the game. I have to get in the right mental space to chase. I can't be Debbie Downer and beat myself up. I have to be 100% committed to getting in there, or else I will absolutely drop the ball and miss it. In which case, I should absolutely just go home and not do this. So, but we're going to give it another shot, and we are going to see what happens. And if nothing happens, then this video is probably going to be 5 seconds of distant tornado we saw yesterday, and this giant brambling emo rant. But maybe it gives you some perspective on what storm chasing is, what it really is. Because to me, this is real storm chasing. It's driving down this highway in the middle of nowhere. It's not particularly pretty, and it's dealing with, you have once again dropped the ball, you have once again missed everything, and you will always be kind of the most mediocre storm chaser. So yeah, we'll end on that cheery note.